Recording, transcribing, we are good. Hello, welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brame. Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting people who are navigating herpes stigma. And we are more than halfway through 2026 already. And announcements wise, let me go ahead and get this out the way. So August 29th, which is a Saturday. It is, August 29th is a Saturday. I've been getting shit from people because I put the wrong date in the newsletter. I apologize, but that is going to be the last Something Positive for Positive People Herpes Stigma Expo. All right. And what this is it's a day of in-person support. We're going to be in Lower Manhattan in New York City. And the address is 120 Walker Street. For those who are curious about whether or not they can make it, it's going to start out with the support group in person, probably about 75 minutes to an hour and a half. We'll do a little bit of yoga to integrate, and decompress from the support group. We'll take a break if you want. You can have lunch with us there and socialize a little bit, and watch some of the role plays where we're going to be having people act out navigating rejection and discussing their sexual health status and herpes status with a potential partner in a role play scenario, a variety of role play scenarios. And you can volunteer if you want to be a part of it, but those will be recorded. So you don't have to worry about being on camera if you don't want to be. But I am giving out gift cards for the people who do want to partake. It's a real simple thing. It's just you get a couple of lines and you just say the thing and then it goes out on social media. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But otherwise, you can just attend the event. I've got one of my board members, Jordan Jones, who's going to be doing a workshop that is centered around sensation play. She did this before a couple of years ago, and it was a real big hit. And I'm looking forward to being able to have her bring in something that's lighthearted and fun to the day, especially because the support in itself is going to be heavy. I already know that, but I want to just start out heavy and then balance it out with something light towards the end and have some playful time in between. So that's a little bit of what you can expect. We'll have a sex therapist on site as well, who's going to talk a little bit about STIs and just give some general information. But for the most part, it'll be a fun day. We're taking donations. The asking price, I believe, is $35 right now. So as long as, people are willing to donate, you can get in. So if the price is an issue, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. But this will be the last event that we do for the expo, as I'll be working on something else, which I may have mentioned already. I'm working on an in-person conference for 2027 that is inclusive to people with herpes, as well as the medical field. So this will be something else that's in New York, but we're already starting the process for that to happen in August of 2027. And that'll be the only big event that I decide to do. So if you're somebody who's listening to the podcast and you want to be up to speed on opportunities to connect with other people who are local to the area, or maybe even in your area who are living with herpes, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter, because that's where the updates will be. I send one newsletter a month. Unless you sign up for a thing, you will only hear from me that one time a month, and that's really it. Social media is not on my phone anymore, and it hasn't really been useful for promoting things. So I've been very busy with support calls. I think we had 60 signups for the month of July, which is awesome. And I've been not needing social media to do what I've been doing. So it feels a little bit like I'm disconnected, but I feel like the impact is way more deep in the sense of the people who I am engaging with. And I can talk a little bit more about what I got going on for me personally. That's kind of what this podcast episode is going to be about. So if you're looking for something that is useful for navigating herpes, this is going to be really good if you can make the connection. I will do my best. I made notes, y'all. I got notes. And I know that I brought the frequency of the podcast down to once a month, which has been really good for me. because it's allowed for me to bring other things in. Like I'm much more invested in my part-time job with teaching medical students how to give genital exams, as well as being able to indulge in some of my hobbies. Like I'm taking the best care of myself that I've ever been able to. And it's weird. It's such a weird thing because I wake up at 6, 7 in the morning, and between doing my yoga, my breath work, my meditation, going to the gym, getting my morning walk in, and let's say it's nice outside, so I want to sit out in the park for a little bit. By the time I eat breakfast, it's like 11, 11:30. So taking care of myself is like a 5 to 5.5 hour a day process. And that's just Monday through Friday. If I had a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I know a lot of people work, let's say 8 to 5 as an example, but 8 to 5 ain't 8 to 5. Let's say it takes you an hour to get to work. Let's say it takes you an hour to get home from work. Let's say it takes you an hour to get ready for work and an hour to decompress from work. That's 12 hours right there. And if you're supposed to sleep for 8 hours, there's 20 hours. So you've got 4 hours to get ready for bed, eat, decompress, do whatever it is that you need to do between Monday and Friday. So where is that self-care? Where is that time that we make to be mindful of our nutrition or move our bodies or practice any kind of stillness and restfulness, right? Everything is centered around like that. So it's difficult. So as I've been doing more of this, I do feel that there is a greater quality of my existence here. I feel a lot more useful. I'm grounded. I'm stable. I'm consistent. And all of my aspects of myself are really much more grounded rather than feeling like things that I have to grasp for or reach for and pull in. I mentioned the 8 C's of my being, which are challenge, choice, consistency, connection, completion, conviction, curiosity, and creation. So these are those, when I talk about nurturing your nature, these are aspects of myself, my being, my identity that I validate through everything that I do, something positive for positive people as an extension of my identity. That's an example of what it looks like to um, have who I am extend into what it is that I do. So I'm seeing it show up in this platform. I see it expressed when I'm teaching. I see it expressed when I'm creating. I see it expressed when I'm dancing. And there's one place that it's not really expressing itself fully. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So this comes from, and I want to send a shout out to the women's support group. Like y'all, I thank y'all for showing up, for being as consistent as y'all are. And I know that the groups tend to be very heavy. Sometimes like it's intense the way that people share things, especially if they're newer to the group, and navigating aspects of things that maybe resurface old feelings that we thought we've healed through. But shout out to y'all for continuing to show up. Let me just say that. And so whenever we have these heavy things, I try and stay on after the call ends to bring in some more lighthearted conversation, to do some decompression and debriefing. And this most recent time, which was 2 Mondays ago, it was the third Monday of July, I was asked a question. I cannot remember what the question was, but it led to me responding with, I do remember. It was about rejection, which the Pornhub article is released on the Pornhub Sexual Wellness Center. No means no, nothing more, nothing less. That's the name of the title. And that article that I wrote stemmed from this particular discussion in the women's group. And what I was presented with was an opportunity to not be a hypocrite. So I challenge the support group members to do things, right? Like I challenge people with truth. Like what's true? Like what are we going to do with the information that we now have, now that we are aware of it, now that it's been brought to our attention? And in my case, someone asked me, well, Courtney, how's dating going for you? It was something along those lines. And I was like, yeah, I'm not dating. Like, I'm fucking, but I'm not dating. And someone was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, I'm not good at it. Like, I'm not good at dating. I'm not on apps. Like, I just don't do well on apps, and I'm terrible at like initiating. And I think that I said that 99% of my confidence comes from when I know that there's mutual interest, or after we've already hooked up, or we are in the relationship, or it's gotten to a place where there's been intimacy, like it's past the point of having to initiate anything. And I have 1% of my confidence in initiating, and all hell broke loose because everybody was like, what? That's surprising. And I shared some vulnerable things. I was like, yo, I don't want to come across to people as creepy. It feels like, people are doing things, earphones are in, like I go to the same places. I walk to the gym, and from the gym, I go to the park. And if I'm on a train or something like that, it makes it difficult for me, to really like meet people outside of the weekends, when that's when people are being social. That's when people are dancing, or people are open and receptive, clearly open and receptive to communication. And I'll go to coffee shops, and I do a lot of things, but I don't initiate. And that's because of a lack of confidence in the initiation. Now, when the women in the group were talking, what they shared were some very insightful things that I don't think I otherwise ever would have known or found out, because so much of my existence has been on social media, where you hear the highlights, lowlights of everyday people that you would otherwise never have any contact with, right? So a lot of what I have seen historically is, ew, this creepy guy, dot, dot, dot. Oh my God, I hate when men, dot, dot, dot. And so all of those things to me have been internalized as, oh, don't do that because that one person said not to do this thing. It didn't work for them. I don't need to do it. And I internalized that. And here I am, in a room full of 10 other women that are like, well, no, like it's times where I'm out and I wish somebody would talk to me. Had talked about being in another country, and how like, yeah, the guys would just come up to them and start a conversation, hit on them, whatever. And it's well received. And that shit gave me anxiety, because I think because I have stuff, like I have like this, right? I think that I fear whatever I do or say being misinterpreted, being put on blast, and like just getting shit on the internet, and then being perceived as like creepy, or having going viral for some shit that was misinterpreted, right? And the reality is, like, I've initiated things before. It's just I have talked myself out of it, in a sense, rejecting myself and telling myself no long before giving other people the opportunity to say no. And what came of this was ultimately getting to a place of realizing that I myself am not afraid of rejection. I get rejected all the time. I ask, people to donate. I ask people to show up on time. I ask people, for more vulnerable things as well. I asked some people out, and they told me no, right? And even after the fact, like, I don't assign narratives to those no's, but I will assign a narrative to a preemptive no. And that's what I don't want to call it insecurity, but that 1% of confidence that I have that is applied to the initiation. So as I think about initiating, like my heart start beating fast. I feel like I'm about to shit myself, and I'm just like, oh, I could never, like, I don't want to do that. And what I realize is that it's not a fear of rejection, it's a fear of success. I have come to learn that oftentimes when I say things, they happen, because I'm the kind of person that follows things through. And I've been a lot more quiet lately, especially on social media. I've been more selective with, how much I share, who I share with. And I think too that having less podcast episodes is one of those things that has increased the quality of what it is that I have to share. But I think I'll weave that kind of thing in, but I wanted to give you the starting point and the end point, which is getting to that place of fear of success, and then sharing what I did and how I was able to move forward, and then apply that to navigating herpes and the how we tell ourselves no before we give anyone the opportunity to, and if we do give them the opportunity to, how we in turn will oftentimes attach a story to it and tell ourselves, oh, they rejected me because I have herpes, they rejected me because, and we'll just like lean into that when it could be a number of reasons. All right. So um this was also, so this is like a fake title. So I typed everything into my AI assistant, and I had it like give me some notes to organize the flow of it. So we're gonna test this out and see how it goes. So essentially, I said no just means no. And when we hear a no from somebody, oftentimes after we navigate a discussion with them about sexual health, it can be because of the virus, but what can happen is like we can begin to make that mean so much more than it is, right? A person just doesn't want to accept the possibility of being exposed to herpes, and that's it. It doesn't mean that we are someone who is not capable of or worthy of love. It doesn't mean that we're dirty. It doesn't mean any of the things about our identity that we make it mean, right? So I mentioned my 8 C's. Having herpes, and when I tell someone I have herpes, if they were to turn me down and not want to move forward, what does that do in terms of invalidating my creativity, my curiosity, my consistency, my completion, my ability to choose, my challenge aspect of myself, and the damn, what's the other one? Consistency. I might have said consistent conviction, right? And then lastly, the only thing that I can see it affecting is connection. So that's one thing out of 7 or out of 8 total values and aspects of myself that I'm experiencing bring up emotions because I wanted to connect with this person. And in wanting to connect and extending an invitation to connect, that extension, that invitation was just declined, right? Rejection is such a big word, but the reality is that, we make an offer, we extend that, and then a person declines it or they accept it. It's a 50-50 chance that it'll be accepted or declined. And in the past, I've always said you'll get one of 3 responses when you share with someone that you have herpes. You'll either get no thanks, me too, or tell me more. And no thanks is really the only, declining of the offer. The tell me more is a maybe, and the me too is in most cases a yes, right? And that's, assuming that if you're on the same page about type and what that means, and if the education level and comfort level is all there, right? Like all of those factors. So what I have recognized about myself is that sometimes that narrative and that process and being susceptible to that, or being someone who subscribes to that, can make us tell ourselves no long before we give the other person a chance to tell us yes. And we remove ourselves from the playing field entirely. And so as this is hard for me to say because I realize that at least for the last several months that I've been wanting to experience more intimate connection. I want to say like in February, March of 2026, that was when I started to recognize like I'm not a polyamorous person. Do I like having sex with multiple people? Yes, right? Like, but that's not a polyamory does not align for me. I do recognize that I'm non-monogamous and what that can look like, and it's a lot more of an expansive sense in regards to how it's important to me to be able to communicate. And I think that what I've learned in non-monogamy is that it looks so different across the board that there's an expectation of communication and what that looks like for the people in the relationship. And arguably, like for what it is that I want, people would say I'm more monogamous, more monogamish is the phrasing. But I'm that's something that as it comes up, it'll come up, right? But um, in ending those polyamorous relationships that I found myself in, what I did learn was that as I started to date or put myself out there or put myself in, I don't, it's hard to call it dating, but in terms of putting myself in positions of pursuing romantic interests or pursuing people that I was attracted to, what I learned is that I would tell myself no long before even like doing anything. And it's not even about my status, right? I would create all these stories for myself of, oh, someone's unavailable. She's disinterested. She's not looking at me. I'm not getting hints, da 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 da. And in hindsight, it's always in hindsight, right? Like afterwards, hints will be there. And I've recognized that historically, I've not been someone who picks up on subtle hints, right? Like I've always said, if you want to fuck me, you got to tell me you want to fuck me, right? Like enthusiastic consent is what I've been trained, to be cognizant of, especially coming through the world of sex positivity and finding myself in spaces where sex is like talked about in a way that it has not been talked about for me in the past. And there was a little bit of culture shock because I go out here in Brooklyn and, motherfuckers like grab the women, dance on them, and like that's okay. Like the request for that, the invitation is, hey, I'm dancing, I'm looking at you, you walk up behind them, and what the dirty wine, whatever it is. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And that's the kind of thought process that I was having for a while. And I recognize like that ain't me. I'm not the kind of person who, that's just not the kind of person that I am. And that works for some people. But for me, what I've learned is that I don't think I was as emotionally intelligent as I led myself to believe I was. Like, sure, in the context of something positive for positive people, listening to people, podcasting, interviewing, you have to be so present that it's not just what people are saying, but it's how they're saying it. And I'm on 10 with that. Can't nobody tell me shit when it comes to listening to a person in this context, because I hear what you're saying, I hear how you're saying it, and I also hear what you're not saying. And that's something that I have only been applying here in something positive for positive people. It is fucking gone in any other context. And I shout out to the M, I'll call her M because I don't know if she won't, people knowing all her business, but from the support group, because later on we had a conversation that she just let me talk at her for like 45 minutes. She asked me a couple of questions, but that was the process of getting to the core of it, which is like, damn, one, I'm afraid of success and getting exactly what I want. And that's something that I am actively getting myself out of. Like, as soon as I realized it, that day I started to take actions to disrupt that thought process and to begin to build new neural pathways that disrupt the belief that I'm someone who's scared of success, because I'm not. That's not me in any way, shape, or form. So my outline, I think I shared enough of the support group information in that what we came up with was that 99% of my confidence is in after the fact. That last 1%, that 1% of my confidence is in the initiation. But when I'm running the nonprofit, when I'm talking to doctors, I'm talking to med students, asking strangers at fucking dance class to dance, even though like I am newer and not as advanced as a lot of the other people who are there, like I recognize that, again, going back to what stigma does, stigma is a fragmentation of identity, right? And so the version of me that they see is a fragmented version, right? They see support group Courtney. They don't see Courtney who be out here in these streets like trying to figure out, am I being flirted with? Like, how can I talk to this person? And then by the time that I make the decision not to do it, or the decision's made for me, that's it. Like, I'm gone. So they held up a big ass mirror for me. And yeah, shout out to M, because I hit her up. I was like, hey, You said something very profound. I can't unsee it, and I think I need to hear more about that. So we met up last Friday. It was a couple of us. We went to a thing, um, and at that thing, that was where we got to like eat some food, talk, be outside. That was when that fear of success came up. And again, like I talked about my identity. And whenever I am locked into who I am, my beliefs and my behaviors are aligned, I get exactly what I ask for. And what's so terrifying about that is that I get it. And it comes with a lot of shit that I didn't ask for. So dating and relationships wise, right? Like let's say I can't remember the last time that I dated or was in a relationship with a woman who was straight. So in terms of sexually, right? There's that fluidity of sex and sexuality with the partners that I'm with. And what also might come with that is the incompatibilities that don't allow for it to happen long term. Or it can be that there's a lack of the ability to have like genuine intimacy or more like time together, get to know each other, right? So these are kind of examples of what comes with that. Now, tying this in with something that was happening alongside this, I mentioned that I'm dancing. It's been almost a year now that I've been dancing Brazilian Zouk, and something clicked for me when someone who, shout out to her, I'll just call her O. You can OH, O, whatever, however you want to think about that. But she was like, hey, if you ever want to dance together for practice, let me know. So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And so we did this same weekend this happened. So right before I met with M to talk about the thing that was brought up in the support group, I was practicing dancing. And what I noticed was I'm initiating a turn of sorts, right? Or I'm initiating a particular move within the dance. And she communicated to me that I was she knows what I'm trying to do, but I'm communicating other shit. And I was unaware of what I was communicating outside of what I was intending until she told me. And bells and whistles went off in my head because that is so clearly what my past dating and relationship experiences have been. And I think that in something positive for positive people, like there's no leakages, there's no unconscious subtle communication here because everything is like right here. We know why we're here. I'm giving support and a person on the other side of this is receiving support. So that dynamic is locked in, it's in place. There's really no room for me to communicate things subtly because I'm asking questions, or I'm not even going to say that. I think the subtle communication aligns with the non-subtle communication. So when I ask you, is that true? And I say some things that are subtle, or the way that I'm saying or asking the thing, that subtle communication is aligned with the non-subtle communication. So it's almost like there's these two worlds that are coexisting. There's the visible world where things are tangible, where you see, touch, feel, hear, taste, smell things. And then there's the invisible world, which is the awareness, emotions, consciousness, and body language. Body language, how I'm moving, how much energy I put into a thing, how little energy I put into a move. These are all things that are being communicated in the dance. So she shared with me like, okay, well, yeah, you're leading a turn, but when you tilt your chest, you're communicating these conflicting things. When you move in this direction, it's communicating something different, and you kind of speed up here. And I was like, wow, I never would have known that had I not gotten the feedback about it. And it's not like what she told me was no, right? I wasn't rejected. This was something that escalated from me asking, hey, do you want to dance? And we danced together. And then it was like, hey, if you ever want to practice, let's practice. And then we met up to practice. And then the practice led to this feedback, right? So I didn't go in with the expectation of getting this feedback. I went in for the sake of just dancing. I wanted to play, right? So let's call it, like I categorize things in life in three categories: work, rest, play. So in play, right, I think that a lot of times what people can do going into an interaction with someone is we think about the end goal. And I use air quotes when I say end goal, because the end goal can be, I'm looking for a partner, I'm looking for sex, I'm looking for a relationship. And subtly, or in our invisible world, that's the outcome that we're attached to. And our physical actions and reactions may be like, okay, well, I know I can't just lead with that, so let me like be more, let me try and intentionally be more subtle, right? And that could be, ooh, this girl's cute, I want to have sex with her, let me ask her to dance. Okay, ooh, all right, now this is the trajectory of the thing. And I think that a lot of times, as it relates to a herpes discussion, what happens is that we are locked into that, and there's an incongruence between the subtle and non-subtle. I don't know what to call it. Like, I don't want to call it real, because the subtle communication is still real, but there's an incongruence of, you say you just want to dance, but really you trying to fuck. You say you just want to dance, but really you looking for a relationship. You say you want to dance, but are you really just looking to dance? And I was able to use this as an example because I wanted to dance, and it was like play, and that was what we did. So everything in me was, all right, I want to dance with you. I want to practice dancing with you. So the whole time, like, that's the connecting piece, right? But if we go in and it's like, I want you to accept me for having herpes, I want you to take away this pain from me because I'm struggling, those are the kinds of things that we can subtly communicate. So tying it back to what I was trying to say, while I might be leading a turn or leading, a lateral, or leading a spin of some sort, my body language unconsciously was communicating something completely different. And what I now realize in hindsight is all the times that I missed subtle hints, because what's happened is, like, that subtle world of communication is really where we build the building blocks to connection. And I've had a handful of experiences recently that now make sense. Because I had somebody out and she was like, oh, like, I'm a little bit surprised by that. And I didn't get it until after this experience, because the reason there was a surprise is because there's this whole undercurrent of the reality that we're connecting, right? Where there might be these subtle hints in communications or things that are said that also have like a double meaning, or little things that, if they go unnoticed by the other person, like flirting as an example, right? You might not say, hey, I'm flirting with you, right? That's real. Underneath, of, hey, you look good in that, right? I say you look good in that, but if I'm looking at you like this, damn, you look good in that. Voice get a little low, eyes get a little squinted, a little smirky. That's one of those opportunities where there's an extension of connection, and being met with a thanks. I mean, I wore it for you. Oh, you wore it for me. Well, I can't wait to take it off you later. Stop. You better quit. Right? Like, had there been more of that, that's communicating sexual interest, right? That's communicating attraction. And because it's an invitation, and the invitation is accepted, and then it's potentially exaggerated or added onto, that's the kind of undercurrent of communication that happens, that when a person says, I just didn't feel anything, or I just didn't feel a connection, I think that these moments are the building blocks of said connection. And the parallel here is in dance. There's a lead and a follower. The lead is responsible for initiating, inviting, and extending the invitation. The follower is going to reject it, decline it. Let me use decline. I want to say decline. They're going to decline it, or they're going to reciprocate. They're going to accept it, and they typically will reciprocate it and exaggerate it. And the more clear you are, the more exaggerating they can be in reciprocating. And it was this big ass aha moment for me, because I realized, damn, whenever people like flirt with me, I remember I was at Sex Down South conference, RIP, in 2020, what was that, 2025? Yeah, last year. And I did my presentation. I'll never forget this. Somebody was like, I'm leaving. I'm just hanging out after I do my talk. And somebody was like, yeah, Courtney, you want to have a stars talk? I was like, ha ha. And that was it. And then somebody else was like, I said, "Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom." And somebody's like, "Yeah, you need somebody to hold it for you." I was like, "Ha ha!" And then I left the room. And I now realize, like, that's clearly an expression of sexual interest. It's a subtle way of connecting. It's, hey, I want to connect with you in these ways. And I just shut that shit down unconsciously. Like, did I want to connect? Fuck yeah. However, because of my inability to be attuned to that world, which is why I say, like, the emotional intelligence is not as like high as I thought it was, because I should have been able to be aware of that. And if I wanted something to happen, then the communication would have been like the back and forth with something like that. Now in hindsight, I'm the fucking most witty, clever person in the world. A year and a half, a year-ish later, after recognizing, oh shit, that person was flirting with me. You know what I'm saying? Because they start talking like, all right, come on, let's practice. Let me see what you got. What you got? You go first, right? Or it could have been, no, you ain't got enough hands to hold this. I'm exaggerating. Let me not have people thinking out my shit out here like this, dropping it on people's heads. But like it's an invitation to play. And that's what I'm learning through dance. This shit has been phenomenal. Like, I say this, shout out to Jolene. She made the No Shame in This Game documentary, and she was like the most recent person to tell me about Zouk. And she was like, "Yeah, you should try. You should come to a class." And I've been coming ever since. It's literally will be a year worth of classes that I've taken at the same place this upcoming Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to my little 1 year Zouk-iversary, so to speak, because it's been teaching me so much more about myself and how to navigate the role of creating a container. Right. And I create containers all the fucking time, but it's been things that are missing from my awareness for me to really be able to lock in and create a stable container that has, the safety, the security, the integrity for people who come into it to be able to reciprocate the energy that's there and to be able to exaggerate it, right? So some people are going to decline the offer. And I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that if I am who I am, I'm not going to be for everybody. My aligned behaviors and beliefs are my authentic expression. I mentioned my 8Cs, right? That's who I am. That's how, excuse me, that's how I validate my sense of self. That's how I nurture my nature. Can't nobody else come in and like do that for me necessarily. I offer like, hey, here's who I am. Do you want to play? And that play is just the opportunity to connect. Everybody ain't gonna want to play. Everybody ain't gonna want to connect. And I now see that. My mom always said this shit. She was like, "Courtney, you too serious all the time." And I think that having distanced myself from something positive for positive people every day has led to me like having to figure out my identity outside of this. And it's not to say that I'm a different person, but the person that I was, like, I brought this extension of myself in as being myself. When the reality is, this is an extension of myself and who I am. Like, I am an emotionally and physically safe person to, most people, I would say. And in that identity and recognizing that this is something that is an expression, it's a symptom of who I actually am, not who I am. I'm like, oh shit, I don't have to change anything. It's something that the processes, the way that I hold the space doesn't apply to dating. It doesn't apply to dancing. Now, these things are similar, but these are various extensions of, who I am. Like, as I look at going back to the creating of the container, as the lead in the dance, I'm creating the anchor, the container for the follow to be able to accept the offer and then be able to reciprocate the energy and exaggerate it. And this starts from a place of wanting to play. I'm not going in with the expectation of this needs to be the end outcome. I want to have the best dance of my life. Like, that's peak in dance. Peak in dating is, we get married, have a family, and live happily ever after, right? that's not what we go in for. There's a whole escalation process that takes place in both the real world as well as the subtle communication world that exists as well. And before, I had no exposure to that until I started fucking dancing. And then that dancing has led to me being a much better communicator. And like, I'm much more confident. Like, I'm 110% confident in something positive for positive people now, because I recognize that the thing that I felt like least confident in, I was not very confident in dancing, but I show up. And that's one thing about me. Like, I say I choose to be here. I choose to go to the Brazilian Zouk classes. I choose to go to these intermediate ones early on. Like, I'll never forget that. I went to my first class. It was advanced. I showed up. I'm like, all right, what we doing today? And everybody was like, all right, everybody go do Zouk. I was like, what? And being uncomfortable, being, the worst dancer. I don't know if people in the anime, but I watched Solo Leveling, and Sung Jin Woo is the main character. He's the worst hunter. So the whole thing is like they're hunters, and he's the worst. Like, he almost dies all the time. And it's funny because my teacher, he's always like, tonight you will die. You do this, and he'll give us the instructions like, you might die, but it's okay. So it's always funny when he says that, because I do feel like a lot more confident now in the dance. And again, like, this has been my biggest insecurity. Like, dancing is something that I have had no confidence in, but I'm confident in myself, and it validates me because I went in with curiosity. Choose to be here. This is something that challenges me. I've remained consistent. I'm seeing it to completion. I am connecting with people. I get to be creative in my sense of expression. I feel like I'm missing the C. Curious. I'm curious about it. I get to be creative. I think that was all of them. I did it. Seeing it to completion. And I say that shit with conviction, right? I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I done spent a lot of motherfucking money on Zouk classes and socials, and I'm not mad about it, especially because, like, I think that this has really enhanced my life and my ability to work and play and rest. So, yeah, I said a lot in between this note right here, but in that time frame that the group member held that mirror up to me, when we came down to it, it was like, okay, Courtney, you got to start initiating. And I've done this before. Like, Hi, I'm Courtney has gotten me into like year and a half plus long relationships. And I think that that's kind of where the fear of success comes in, because those relationships, again, came with things that I couldn't have anticipated, that I didn't want. And throughout the course of the relationship, there were inconsistencies and incongruencies between what I'm saying and what I'm doing aligning, but it's the non-verbal shit that's happening underneath that, the subtle things, right? So, like, as an example, somebody being like, take the trash out. So objectively, someone's telling me to take the trash out. But subjectively, underneath the tone, it can be, motherfucker, you don't never take this trash out when I ask you to take the trash out. You know you're supposed to take the trash out on Tuesdays. Here it is, Wednesday, right? There's a lot of subtext in what's being said. And I think that throughout the history of relationships and dating, that there were inconsistencies in my communication, using the example of the person that I asked out being like, this, I'm a little bit surprised by this. It's because I'm not going to say that she, put anything out there, but also I didn't initiate, right? Because I wasn't confident in initiating. So in building my confidence to initiate, it's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna shoot my shot. And it's like, oh, okay, I shot my shot. And here I am with feedback that is, hey, Courtney, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that. And that's not the first time I heard that. And I think that I go in with like, trying so hard not to be attracted to people, not wanting to inconvenience anybody or whatever, and it comes off as disinterest. And it's like, no, that ain't the case. Like, I wear this stigma suit, and lately I've been taking it off Friday 1 p.m. until Monday 1 p.m. So weekends, I've been getting into the practice of being Courtney, figuring out, how that looks in terms of engaging with other people. And it looks like I'm extending invitations to play. And the simplest way to do that, I had to counter or teach myself that in being afraid of success, I had to define success. So a success to me looks like being able to introduce myself to someone and say, hi, I'm Courtney. And let me tell you, the power of what we say, I said that shit, and I was immediately met with the opportunities to say this. One day I was walking to the gym and I got, two buildings down from my gym, and I saw this person who had a guitar, two big ass suitcases, and two backpacks just standing there. And I was like, "Hey, do you need help?" And they paused for a minute and they were like, "Yeah, I could use help getting these up the steps for the train." So I'm walking with them, and I asked, like, "Hi, I'm Courtney," or I didn't even say that yet. I was like, "Okay, well, where you going? What's going on?" And this person was moving back home, which I could relate to because I had to move back home recently across the country, and this person was a musician. And it's funny because I said I'm working on making a mixtape that I'm running to a musician. So I carried their bags up the steps with them. And fortunately, or unfortunately, their car didn't work. So I paid for them to get in, and they got to the other side. I handed them the bags, and I just like, "Oh, hey, I'm Courtney, by the way." And they were like, and then they said a name that wasn't, because I assumed the person's gender. So that's why I'm saying like this person, because I assumed that this was a woman, but the name that they gave me tells me that they might have used they, them pronouns, because I said she when talking to the security guard. Because the security guard was like, "Did you pay for both of y'all?" I was like, "Motherfucker, I ain't going. Like, this isn't for me. This is for that person." So yeah, "Hi, I'm Courtney" happened. And then leaving the gym, I'm walking the way I normally do. And there was this dude on the corner who called me. He was like, "Hey man, what's your name?" I was like, "Oh, I'm Courtney." He's like, "All right, Courtney." And then he started like rapping at me. And he was spitting. He was like, "Yeah, keep your head up, keep doing what you're doing." And he was just like freestyling. And he was like, he got to the end of it and was like, "Yeah, if you can, help me, bless me with something." So I reached in my thing, and I do this thing where if I take out cash for any reason, like 10% of that or something like that goes to someone who needs it. So I gave that to him, walked off, and I kind of like slick gave it to him, and it was a lot. It was a lot of money, and I heard him yelling. I was like, "No, don't look back. Be cool." And so I just like walked off. I let go of any attachment to the outcome, and somebody blessed me, and so I blessed this person, and it was another thing because like I very much enjoy like rap battles and freestyling and music in general, right? And I'm making my I'm writing for my mixtape. This is gonna happen. I'm having so much fun just like thinking about it and the way that I'm listening to music right now in the process. But that was another case of saying, "Hi, I'm Courtney." And then I got invited to this conference that was like a very quick turnaround. And when I go to conferences, I'm constantly introducing myself, "Hi, I'm Courtney." And that assignment that I had like was me working that muscle of just initiating, even in the professional context. So that evening, going back to the most recent time that I was talking about, I here we go. That all happened before the conversation. So between the support group, that was when I was like, I'm gonna start saying, "Hi, I'm Courtney." And then I met up with a couple of people from the support group and had that conversation. And I was like, "Yeah, thank you for holding me accountable, because I can't be out here, being a hypocrite. I gotta do what I say I'm gonna do. And if I'm telling y'all to do things, I gotta be willing to do it myself." So the big test happened that night. So we're out, we dancing, and what's crazy is I saw this person again, right? So we're just dancing, having a good time at this little festival thing, and I see somebody, and I see her. I was like, "Damn, she is beautiful." And another thing that I had to realize too is that a lot of times I'm unmotivated because maybe I'm not actually attracted to the person. So that's something too that like I had to recognize for myself. Am I attracted, or am I like talking myself out of the attraction? And I caught it. Ego. I don't say my ego because it's not mine, right? It's a collective ego thought process. That motherfucker was like, "Oh man, she ain't your type," or "Oh, she got a boyfriend. Oh, she with her mom. Don't talk to her." And so I saw her just dancing, and her mom was with her. Clearly, her mom, right? And they was just having a good time, and they were in the same spot. And I like that shit. Like if a motherfucker can hold their space like so grounded, that tells me that this is a healthy person. rather than like somebody who's got to run around the club everywhere or whatever and like find new spots. Because my belief is everybody gonna move around. If you stay in one spot at the club, you're gonna see everybody there, or at the party, you're gonna see everybody there. So usually I'll be posted up by snacks, but it wasn't no snacks here. So time passes and like there's never any eye contact or any hints of interest or anything like that. So we were getting ready to leave. It was me and two other girls from the support group, and I saw her and I was like, you know what, I didn't even think about it. My body just moved on its own. And I walked over, I just tapped on her, and she turned around and she was kind of like smiling, made eye contact. I was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, you and your mom, like question mark. She said, yeah. Or not mom, I said sister. I didn't say mom, I said sister. I was like, you and your sister? She's like, yeah, my sister. I was like, I have really great energy. Hi, I'm Courtney. And she told me her name. And then I was like, y'all have a good night. And she's like, all right, you too. And then I walked off. My heart was beating so goddamn fast. I felt like I was going to shit myself for about 30, 45 minutes on the train ride home. But I was so proud of myself. Yeah, I was proud of myself. I ain't asked for shit. I ain't tell it like I wanted anything or anything like that. But what happened was, to me, I taught myself that I'm capable of introducing myself to someone who I am attracted to. So that little 1% might have went up a little bit, might have jumped up to 2%, right? So a little more of that confidence is translating. Not to say that anything has been taken away from, let's say things did progress. Let's say that there was a date or like an invitation to interact with one another and play. Because I guess it was a little bit playful because I was able to pick up on the fact that she knew what I said her sister, but I know that's her fucking mom, right? Like the sarcasm in there and the smile, right? So I was able to be attuned to those things. Whereas if she was like, yeah, my sister, I'd have been like, oh shit, that is your sister. Like, not your mom. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And that could have just been a big turn off if I were to have missed that cue. So like, I'm proud of myself for that. And also because the girls from the support group got to see me do it. So now, I ain't just out here telling y'all to do shit and I ain't doing it myself. So that was it. But yeah, I got her name, walked away. And while I was nervous as fuck, it eventually stopped. And I was like, you know what? I didn't die. Same way in dance class, right? Like you bump knees, you kick people, you confuse people with your dance steps and shit, but I didn't die. And while that shit was, my heart was beating out of my chest because I was in Harlem and like going back to Brooklyn. I had a long ass train ride to think about this shit, but it was like I exercised this part of myself that doesn't normally get exercised. And let me tell y'all this too, like a week later or 5-6 days later, I go to see Spider-Man movie, and I left the Spider-Man movie. I walked my friend in her car, and then we decided to go get ice cream. And in walking, someone felt familiar. I don't know if you ever had this experience where like you may not recognize like how someone looks right away, but they feel familiar. And it registered to me. I was like, yo, that's the girl who I introduced myself to. Like I walked past her, I saw her, and like my heart didn't start beating fast and shit. But like I saw her face, and then like what really got me was like her back. She had like a very specific like build, and I think she had the same outfit on. That's what really clicked for me. I was like, yo, what are the odds? What are the odds that in fucking New York City that you see the same person twice, let alone it be somebody that like you introduce yourself and got no contact information from or anything. So I don't know if she recognized me, but like, man, it is what it is. Like my hair looks like this. I think I don't know. It ain't really a whole lot of black dudes that got their hair like this. And I did shave, so I look like my dad right now. Ooh, I can't wait till this shit grow back. But I kind of like, you see my jawline and shit. Like a model. Ooh. Okay. Also, I've been cutting my own hair. Really just doing this little taper thing on the sides and the back. So I'm feeling good about that. Anyway, So this is, again, going back to like, we got to watch what we say, how we talk about ourselves, because what we put out is what we take in. And there's a lot more for me to speak to about that as I wrap up my yoga therapy certification, because there's actual science behind this shit. There is science behind it. And I cannot wait to be able to share this with y'all. But I'm working on, rather than having things input and then me immediately output them, I want to store them, metabolize them, and then express what's useful and like live that shit so that I can more accurately speak to it. All right. So yeah, I talked a little bit about the Zouk metaphor, right? The direct and subtle communication and how that translates, right? And then the masculine, feminine, lead, follow relationship dynamic. What I'm learning is that feminine people love directness, decisiveness, intentionality, good leadership, right? And again, this is an invitation, like, hey, here's my mass, here's my gravity, here's my world. Would you like to be a part of it? Yeah, you take my hand, like, I'm going to lead you through my world, and you have the opportunity, because you accepted it. Now you can reciprocate what I give you, or you can exaggerate the shit. And I think that this is what people mean, where it's like, you give a woman a seed, she gives you a baby. You give a woman a house, she turns it to a home. You give ingredients, they make a meal. So that creative process between the masculine and the feminine is really, it ain't about man, woman, boy, girl. Like, it's the complementary aspects of a whole, like the creative process. Like, when you bring these two forces of energy together, masculine and feminine, you get a dance, you get creation, right? And sex, creation, all of it is like a dance, so to speak, right? You put a lot of masculine people together, you put a lot of feminine people together, you can get the useful outcome, or you can get the most useless outcome, right? So you can be fucking talking about Real Housewives or Love Island, whatever that is, useless, right? You can get a bunch of dudes together, have machismo, and then like everybody just want to fight everybody, right? Useless. Or you get a group of masculine people together, and they build and they create sound structures that allow for the feminine and to be able to exaggerate and make beautiful. So yeah, we build these roads, bridges, structures for the feminine to be able to create in, paint on, whatever, right? And I'm not saying this like, exclusively men, women. I mean this in the sense of masculine, feminine, interconnectedness, right? So the healthy expression of masculinity being the creation of a container for the healthy expression of femininity, which is the exaggerated reciprocity of what's there, the creation, right? So, in that context, right, the subtle communication versus the direct communication. Directly, I want you to spin, but subtly, I'm wanting you to do head movement. And that can be real dangerous. So the subtleness of, hey, I want to take you out sometime, right? The sometime is very fucking vague. It's not direct. It's not decisive, because now you got to guess. And again, shout out to Mike for telling me dance is a conversation. When he said it, I got it, because I know moves, which means I know words. And now, like, putting my own flavor into it is that nonverbal stuff that makes it a sentence. And if I don't give that to the follower, she has to put the words together to create her own sentences. So in dating and relationships, if that invitation is not clear on who I am, and if there's an incongruency between how I'm saying a thing, what my facial expressions are, what my body language is, she's going to get mixed signals and have to guess what I'm trying to communicate to her. And that makes the dance less fun, because followers don't want to lead. Like, I'm seeing that now, and I'm confident in saying that, most of the women that I know who date men or interact with us, they don't want to have to make decisions. And, I take it how you want, but like, I'm speaking from my direct experience. Like, I have engaged with more women who are just fucking exhausted from having to make decisions and want like a man to be like, hey, here's the plan, right? And I've been that man, but in the sex positivity space, so much of like I think that I've been scared of saying the wrong shit or getting canceled. So there is a lot more like questions. But in my teaching, what I've learned is you want to ask the questions like up front, and then you don't have to really worry about it anymore, right? We're getting informed consent. We're talking about the thing, and they're aware that it can be an ongoing conversation. Hey, if there's any, incongruencies or whatever, bring that up. Like, I'm not going to ask you every step of the way, is this okay? Is that okay? Is this okay? Is that okay? Right? Like, if I'm picking up on the subtleties, then I know, oh, all right, I need to leave this person alone because this is not okay for them. Right. And I'm seeing that, like, the more that I'm out, the more that I'm like talking to people and I'm dancing, right? I'm even more able to pick up on, like, if somebody's not having a good time dancing, right? Like, well, okay, we'll see what happens if anything changes. And if not, okay, give a hug. Thank you so much. And then we go our separate ways. Right. And then there's times where a motherfucker linger and like want to talk or be like, oh, we're done dancing already. Well, shit. All you had to do was say something. Come here. And then we can keep it going. Uh, but yeah, and that's the dance floor. But in dating, like, you don't want to have somebody having to guess where they stand with you. You don't want them to have to like guess, oh, is there interest? Is there not? For some people, that can be fun because it gives them an adventure to go on. But for where I'm at now, I'm 37 years old, and I don't really I don't want to put anybody through that. Like, I'm very much more on the other side of things, like after getting to the other side of like the people that I've had sexual relationships with, right? Like, I don't have to guess. And like, we can play, I can like communicate those subtle nonverbal things, but it's after the fact. Where I've struggled is at the beginning and at the initiation process, because I was talking myself out of it and telling myself that getting a no means something so much more than what it actually means, which is just no. And that's all there is to it. So not knowing what I was offering or being attached to a particular outcome, that made it difficult for me to extend an invitation in a way that was congruent with my nonverbals. Because if my nonverbals are like, oh, I want to play this safe, I want to play this safe, then I'm closed off. I'm not playful. I am too serious, as my mom would say. And if I'm like, hey, I want to play with you. Hello, my name's Courtney, and I would really like to extend an opportunity to play with you. That's serious as fuck. You can't take that seriously. There's an incongruence there. But if I'm like, damn, hey, you got a real pretty smile. I'm Courtney. Oh, he thinks I'm cute. And he's coming over to talk to me. And his voice is deep and he's got a little smirk. And his eyes are, whatever's being communicated. All right, I'll accept this invitation. Hi, I'm so and so. Oh, all right. Well, yeah, this is what I'm getting into tonight. What about you? Right. Or whatever, however the conversation goes. Like, damn, I'm over here. Like, I used to always say I ain't got no game, but I think something's changed over the last year. I gotta write my dance instructors a letter or something, just thanking them for like just teaching me this, like putting it in a way, because I'm the kind of person, you can't tell me shit for me to learn. Like, I need to experience it. I need to be able to fuck up and get it right and see the difference. I need metaphors. I use anime references. I use the solar system as reference points. And yeah, I'm done missing hints. I'm done with that shit. Even if it take me a minute to respond, right? Like, I want to play. And I believe that that's like why we're here. Like, sometimes I ask people, why do you think like whatever higher power force, God, made what this is? And the answer that I come to, the more I dig into the religious text, which I have been doing, it's to play, right? Like, it's to forget the seriousness of being everything, everywhere, all at once. Shout out to that movie. And just being able to play as a fragmented piece of consciousness that knows and is connected to that whole, recognizes that we are everything and we're just here to play, we're dancing, right? And in our fragmentation, maybe we're good alone, but also like finding a complementary energy to create the dance. Because like, yeah, if you look at it, proton electrons, they have their relationship. And the way that they engage is the same way that the masculine and feminine does. The masculine is stillness, and it draws in the feminine, which is motion, it's chaos. And when you have a strong enough gravity force mass, that chaos, that femininity is able to orbit in its own chaotic way, in a way that allows for it to be safe within the container of that field that has been created. And that's what, as a man, my responsibility is, as a masculine man, to create and sustain that groundedness and be who the fuck I am in an authentic way on the dance floor, in something positive for positive people, in dating and pursuing relationships. And I feel so much more like grounded and dug into that because of all this time that I've been able to spend by myself. And I'm getting a little bit emotional thinking about that, because it was very hard for me to communicate to people who were really fucking there for me during the worst time of my life in 2025. 2025 was the worst time of my life. Worse than getting herpes, worse than not knowing where I was going to go to college, worse than moving to Houston and experiencing a fucking breakup, not and getting fired from my job, worse than not knowing what was going to happen in 2020 because of the pandemic. 2025 was the worst year of my life, the first half of it at least. And it started to get better after July. But I still had my moments. And for me, like, dancing has given me a new outlook on existence, on life. And this is like part of it. So I'm living in such a fucking way that I've integrated. Like, I know I'm gonna say shit a lot, but we are energetic beings that input, store, metabolize, and then we output. And I've been inputting dance, I've been inputting more rest, I've been inputting more self-reflection, anime, spirituality, and quantum physics. And what I've been storing is that information. I haven't been just dumping shit that I know on social media or what I'm learning. I'm metabolizing it, and my nervous system is intelligent in sending the information and the feelings, the chemicals, the mass everywhere that it's supposed to be distributed within me. And then the output is I make it useful, or I hold on to it, and I'm like radiating this light. Like, motherfuckers say I'm glowing now. I'm looking like real lean. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling good. I'm eating good. I'm taking care of myself, which again, it takes me about 5 hours a day, but it's very worth it. And that output, right? Like, we take what we apply what we need or what's useful, we put it out into the world, and then what's not useful is waste. Right? We get rid of what's not necessary. But out of every experience that I had last year, all that bad shit, it just was fuel for me. I chewed that shit up, and all of it wasn't delicious, but it had nutrients. It had nutritional value for me energetically. Going through that breakup, the way that happened, having to move back home, my roommate, I think, might have killed himself, but I can't say that. My college roommate, I don't know if he, what happened exactly, but, dealing with or experiencing that during that time. My great grandma being in the hospital, we thought she wasn't gonna make it, and she actually passed away a couple of weeks ago. My great grandmother, she's 93. We saw it coming, and I'm not sad. It brought up feelings because she's the mother of the grandmother who passed away, and her funeral was on my 13th birthday. So there's some feelings around that, but I was able to recognize and do what needed to be done for myself to take care of myself. And then losing my home to a tornado, but everything worked out the way that it was supposed to, because all of that friction was fuel. It was fuel that led to me continuing to go, continuing to, I don't even want to say grow. Like I don't think that I've gotten bigger necessarily. I've gotten more condensed. I've taken those experiences and taken what's useful to increase the quality of who I am. And, it's such that I also, ended a lot of, friendships, I would say. Because when I looked up, I was in these polyamorous relationships, and it's like, no, this ain't what I wanted. And unfortunately, I lost some people who really fucking held me down during the worst time of my life. When I had a greater quantity to give, I was able to, but I had nothing. I had nothing for myself. I didn't even have a place to stay. Like the tornado is a very poetic thing because it's the wind element. And wind is representative of Vata energy, which is just, it's chaotic, it's wild, it's ungrounded. And that's the state that I was in. And I needed more grounding. I needed stability. And now here I am. I'm in New York. I got my room in an apartment. I got my routine. I'm working consistently. And yeah, I'm grounded. I'm very grounded. And the quality of what I have to give, while it's less quantity, is fucking magnificent. And, I apologize to those people who I've hurt and the people that I've, miscommunicated with. Going back to the subtle things, right? Like I'm saying things and doing things, and the nonverbals, the subtle stuff was confusing the fuck out of people. And I apologize. I doubt they listening to this, but I'm saying it out there, saying it out loud. For anybody who tolerated me in 2025 and early 2026, I'm I don't want to say I'm different now, but there's more congruence. I got a lot more conviction than what I had previously. I know who I am. Ain't nobody gonna convince me I'm anything else. And I'm ready. I'm ready for the universe to test me. It already did, actually. It threw somebody at me. Y'all, we ain't gonna talk about that here. Let me get through this podcast episode. And maybe at the end we can do a little decompression. But yeah, I already talked about what chemistry is. Yeah, like it's being able to connect on those subtle things and being able to, someone's like, yeah, having that example that I just gave. I think I learned from teaching. I just had that epiphany right now. Like somebody, I'm thinking about dance class. She was in town briefly and she was new. And I communicated to her, maybe it's because I'm so new that I was able to be like, oh yeah, here's a simplified way of doing it. She was like, oh my God, you're such a great teacher. And I was like, me? Like, I just started. But yeah, this might be how I learn. So just tying all this back to, dating and navigating, the discussion about our sexual health. We have to have that consistency between what we're saying and how we're saying it. Our words might be like, oh, I have herpes and it's just a skin condition. I manage it well. But then underneath that, are we scrounged up? Are we looking away? Are we checking for their body language and responses? Like, what are we screaming? Are we screaming, I'm scared. Please don't leave me. Don't reject me. I need you to accept me. All the power is yours. And a person can be unclear on how to receive that information because of the confusion there. So when we do this, it's not just like telling people, here's the data, here's the information. Like, what are we feeling? What are our emotions about it? What's our energy saying, right? Do our words align with our subtle communication? And, even if you do it perfectly, that person still might say no. And that doesn't mean anything about your identity. It says nothing about who you are. It just says that no, like you extended an invitation and they said no. And that's okay. We ain't supposed to be for everybody. Who we are is not supposed to be for every single person. And I think that, historically, I've been the kind of person who I tried to be liked by everybody. And I think I talked about this. Yeah, I did talk about this. I had somebody hang up on me for for the first time this year on a herpes support call, and I wasn't for that person, you know. And hopefully, he gets the support and help that he needs. But this is who I am, and being told no when shoot my I can't even say shoot my shot no more. I cannot allow myself to say that. I'm not shooting my shot. I am extending invitations for play. And I operate under the law of assumption that everybody wants to play. Maybe they don't want to play with me. Maybe they do want to play with me. And play can contextually be engaging in a conversation or sharing an observation. It can be sharing space and, just laughing with each other. Or it can be a date. Or it can be an exchange of contact information that leads to something else. It can go wherever it can go, but that's the whole thing about play. Like, play doesn't have an intended outcome all the time. Like, yeah, of course we want things to happen, but play, there is no attachment to outcome, which makes it so much more fun, which makes it so much better about, it makes connecting so much better. And that's what dance is. Dance is just, we dancing for the sake of dancing. Ain't no outcome. We ain't keeping score. I mean, there's things that do keep score, but we just dance for the sake of dancing. So let's play for the sake of playing. And now taking that approach into, hi, I'm Courtney. Like I can't wait to use this. I got a bomb ass, like, just fun line to use. I should have done it today, but I was scared, y'all. I was shy, and I was on the phone. That's my excuse. But someone walked by, and it was somebody that I found attractive. I'm in fucking Brooklyn. Like, almost everybody that I see that I'm like, oh, is attractive. But she had a dog with her, and I'm gonna give y'all this so you can use it, right? And I just imagine, like, looking at the dog and being like, oh, is she friendly? And then, like, the owner clearly hearing it being like, whatever. Oh, she's a boy. I'm like, oh, you are? I was talking to her. I was talking to the dog. I can't wait to use that to see how it goes. But I do imagine that if the dog's actually a girl, she'd be like, oh yeah, she doesn't like men. That'd be like the ultimate, like, subtle communication, but it's overt, so it's like got a double entendre to it. But see, that's what my mind does. Like, I'm already telling myself, hey, you shouldn't do that, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna do that shit to a lesbian with a girl dog, and it's gonna backfire on your ass. But also, like, what if that doesn't happen? What if I get what I want, and that's the fucking thing that I'm afraid of, right? Because what comes with that? So if I go up to a woman I'm attracted to, and I look at the dog and I'm like, oh, hey, is she friendly? And she goes, she was like, oh yeah, she really likes men. Like, oh, that's good to know. Well, I'm Courtney. And what's your dog's name too? Like, what's your name? What's your dog's name? I was talking about you. She's like, stop. Oh. Well, I ain't get anxiety when I just said that, so maybe it'll work. So I hate I fuck around and end up in another relationship, and it'd be with somebody who I use this line on, and she'd be like, you been using that on everybody? Da, 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 da. That'd be funny. But no, this was just for you, baby. In case you're listening. Future Courtney gonna be proud of me for that one. But yeah, I don't think people listen to this point in the podcast anyway. It's been more than an hour. But I hope that this was useful to y'all. Like, that's how I'm choosing to look at it. I'm extending an invitation, and people are accepting it, reciprocating it. And it's an invitation to play. I used to think that I needed a reason to talk to somebody, and it's so easy for me to talk to people at a conference, at a workshop, at an event, ask someone to dance at a dance social, right? It's easy because there is a reason. Whereas out in the streets, out in, regular public situations, which I've done this shit before, and it's just like a mental block, which is why it's important for me to just do the shit before thinking about it or thinking myself out of it and telling myself no. We will reject ourselves far quicker then we will give anyone the opportunity to reciprocate with us, to accept the invitation. So think about it like this. I'm not discussing my sexual health status with you for the goal outcome of us getting married, having a family together, and living happily ever after. This is because I want to play, and everybody likes to play. Do you want to play with me? Here's some of the, do you want to dance with me? Here's the song. Here's the music. Here's the genre. The genre just so happens to be, I have herpes. So, this is the beat. This is the movements, right? And let people make that decision. Damn, this feel like a good ass podcast episode, y'all. I ain't gonna lie to you. I feel like I was on track. Shout out to Gemini, Google Gemini, for making these notes and taking my disordered ass thought process and aligning it in a way that I think flowed smooth. Even though I ain't really used it the whole time, I just kind of looked at it to make sure. I was like, oh, I did talk about that. I talked about that. So it went in order, man. But yeah, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for being here. I think this has been good for me because I do need to talk more. Like I'm working on building, community for myself, but it's such a gray area, y'all, because like this is how I fucking meet people. And the ethics of things, right? Like between socializing, professionalism, and running support groups, and like how do you make friends? Like I just hung out with a dude cool as fuck that I gave support to like 4 years ago, I want to say. And he had joined one of the support group meetings, and we like hung out and ate and got a drink, and it was just cool as fuck. And I'm like questioning, oh my God, like, can you do this? Like, can you make friends this way? Like, what about, in dating? Like, obviously, like there's all these ethics and shit that I know that I got to be aware of, be careful of, and things like that. So like, I have my boundaries around like who I meet, how I meet them, if we date, what happens. And that's like, so I'm working on just being able to like fucking make friends and just invite people to play. Like I love when I go to Houston, I love going to Houston because my friends are there and we know each other. They know I'm weird as fuck and they don't care. I love that unconditional acceptance from my friends. And at 37, it is very hard to develop that and build that and to nurture that. But I said it out loud, so fuck, I'm committed to it now. Yeah, I'm committed to it now. So I very much look forward to. I'm going out tonight. I'm gonna go out tonight. I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go to this Brazilian Zouk social. I'm gonna dance and do some practice my moves, and then I'm gonna go to this R&B night. And I'm extending invitations to play. That's my mindset. And I had some coffee earlier. This ain't coffee. This is just my hot water in my Muzan cup. Shout out to, I don't know if she want me saying her name, but I got this cup from somebody. I don't know if she'll see it, but I appreciate the thing that we did in order for me to have gotten this cup. Even though this motherfucker was way more expensive than it should have been, but it was the last Muzan cup. My water got cold. This was boiling when I started the podcast. All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Support groups for women are the first and third Monday of each month, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to join, we need to have a support call first so that you can be vetted and introduced to the expectations and get a little bit of that stuff off your chest that maybe you haven't gotten to speak to for the first time, so that you don't come in emotionally dumped and then feel like you got an emotional hangover and we never see you again. The men's group meets on the fourth Monday of each month, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And there's just less men and we don't need a lot of time and less frequency as well. If we get more men, we'll get more men's groups. If there are 5 Mondays in the month, like there is in August, I'll bring a guest. This month is going to be Marina Clear, who's a sex therapist, and I'm looking forward to having her. Like, I really do want for her to share a little bit with y'all about some of her personal experiences, but she's also going to share about like shame in sex. So that'll be the primary topic. If there are 5 Mondays, that's what we do. It's a co-ed group. You make the donation if we've already had a call to the support group that you want to be a part of, and you'll be added to the most soon upcoming support group. That's just what the process is. I don't care how much you donate. That's the process for getting into the support group, y'all. And then, yeah, I'm working on the 2027 Herpes Stigma Conference. This is going to be a big deal. It's going to be in New York. It'll be in August 2027. And that's where I'm diverting my energy to. And yeah, I could use more guests for the podcast so that it's not all my personal experiences. I do enjoy this and talking and sharing my experiences and making them useful because it's a really good reflection exercise for me. And I think that this helps me with releasing and letting go of things energetically that otherwise I would hold on to. So, I don't know, the once a month podcast, it kind of feels like not enough. And I got rid of my self podcast. But we'll see what happens. I like this once a month thing, and then it lets me be more focused on the newsletter, but also like if I'm not on social media, that frees up a lot of my time and space as well. If I'm not on social media as much. All right, I'm done. Let me stop talking. Till next time, stay present. That concludes this episode of Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Rusty, y'all. Please like, rate, review, share, subscribe to the podcast. Reach out if you want to be a guest. Yes, you need to be on camera. I'm done perpetuating stigma. Herpes Stigma Expo, August 29th, all day, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., New York City, 120 Walker Street. Hit me up. Peace out. Ooh, let me stop this first.